How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have two stories for you, the two most spoiled kids I have ever heard of. I know you'll enjoy the story, so sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel, watch this video on Spotify if you want to, link in the description, and let's just jump right into it. So anyways, we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the first story Chris. So anyways, Chris was in class, and during this class, there was a project you had to do where it's a very common project that you get in school. It's the what do you want to do when you grow up project. So Chris, at this point in his life, was in 3rd grade, so he was pretty young at this point, and he was basically given the week to make a little summary of what he wanted to do, and then at the end of the week on Friday, present it to everyone in the class. There was also a kid in Chris's class who we're just going to call the spoiled kid, and he was kind of known as the spoiled kid because he always just acted very entitled. He always had nice fancy stuff on, or always had new clothes or whatever. And most notably is he always became, his dad drove this, sports car to come pick him up, which, bro, why are you driving the Lambo to pick your kid up from 3rd grade? But anyways, right, he was kind of known as a spoiled kid, and that's kind of irrelevant for right now because Chris really wanted to be a firefighter at that point in his life, so he went back home. He asked his mom if he could go and get, a firefighter costume from a Halloween store. They went, they found one, they got it. Chris, looked up or asked his mom to help him learn some information about being a firefighter, and he put together a nice little presentation. So now on the day, it is now Friday, it's the day that everyone is presenting, and anyways, right, so, everyone is sitting there. A lot of people are either in costumes, or maybe they have a poster board. Chris happens to be in costume and has a poster board, but you know who doesn't have either, really? The spoiled kid. The spoiled kid literally has neither. He's just sitting there. And people are kind of looking over what's going on, bro? Why does this kid not have anything? That's kind of crazy. And they're like, I don't know. Or Chris is like, maybe he has something memorized in his head. Maybe I just can't see what he has to, present or whatever. But sure enough, it's time for Chris to go up there. Chris goes up, nails his presentation, says, I want to be a firefighter, says a bunch of firefighter facts, and sure enough, more people go up. There's doctor, lawyer, astronaut, chemist, mad scientist, SpongeBob SquarePants. There's a lot of professions that people go up and say that they want to do, and that's when it's time for the spoiled kid. So the teacher's going down the list and reading out names. It's like, all right, spoiled kid, it is your time to go up. And the spoiled kid is he looks up, he's like, whatever, and he walks up to the front of the class, and he said, when I am older, I want to be rich. And everyone's kind of sitting there okay. And the teacher was kind of looking at him and the spoiled kid's like, that's it, that's my presentation. And the teacher's like, wait a second, spoiled kid, are you telling me that the only thing that you did was say that, I want to be rich, and you're done with it? That's all you did? And the spoiled kid's like, well, yeah. And the teacher's like, okay. Because, at this point, they didn't really have grades. They got, a check plus or a check minus or something, but it really didn't affect them at this point. They were only in 3rd grade. So the teacher wasn't like, I'm going to fail you. But the teacher's like, well, maybe you can add a little bit more on the spot. And the spoiled kid's like, well, I want to be wealthy too. Which, bro, rich and wealthy is basically the same thing in a sense. And the teacher's no, what are you gonna do to become rich? And the spoiled kid's like, I'm just gonna become rich. And at this point the teacher's like, what do you mean? And the spoiled kid is like, well, some people when they're born, they're just born better than other people, and they just become rich. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, people aren't born better than other people. Everyone is born the same at birth. That's ridiculous. And the spoiled kid's like, well, then why do I have all this cool stuff in my house? And when I go to other people's houses, they don't have that cool stuff. Remember, bro was in 3rd grade, but still, what? The thing is, bro, this is definitely the parents coming in and telling some kind of brainwashing right here. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, that is super disrespectful. Everyone has different opportunities and disadvantages in their lives. Just because, your parents were able to, I'm sure that they worked very hard, but there's also a bit of luck involved in that. You got to be great. Like, you got to be grateful for all that. You can't just say that you got that because you deserve it. Like, you were just happened to be born from them. And the spoiled kid's like, well, I don't understand. Like, I thought the way the world worked was like, if you were rich, that just meant you were better. And poor people are poor because they're worse. And the teacher is just staring at the spoiled kid with his mouth like wide open. And everyone else in class is like kind of turning around and like talking to each other like, dude, what did this kid just say? Did he just say I was worse because my parents make less? He said I'm inherently worth less? Like, what? And the spoiled kid said, yeah, like, what? And he said also, what does like job have to do with money? And he's like, isn't it just like the poor people have jobs and then, the better people, aka rich people, just they're just able to sit there? And the teacher's like, no, like, you make money from your jobs. The spoiled kid's like, oh, okay, well then I want to be really rich when I grow up. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, you don't understand. Like, you were put in a fortunate position where your parents have done well. Like, that's awesome. That's great. Whatever, right? But that's not a job. Just having money is not a job. That's not how this works. And everyone could kind of tell that the teacher was starting to get a little bit upset because, look, being a teacher is a thankless profession, right? You have a lot of snotty kids in your class that don't care what you're doing. You also don't get paid at all. Most of the time, teachers are doing it because they believe that their work is important, teaching the next generation of kids. And that is really the only way they get paid, in gratitude. Or not gratitude, but just like knowing they're doing something important. So this teacher was a little mad that this kid, the spoiled kid, was basically like, well, I plan to do nothing and be really lame when I grow up. Like, I'm just going to sit there and, fiend off all the money I'm going to get in my inheritance. Basically what this kid was saying. So anyways, right, the spoiled kid is like, I don't understand. And, the teacher's like, okay, pick a profession, spoiled kid. Pick a profession. And the spoiled kid is starting to get angry himself. He's like, I just want to be rich. I don't care what you're saying. And the teacher is like, that's not a profession. Choose a job. What do you want to do? And this is when the spoiled kid says, Daddy says I don't need a job because he's so rich he'll pay for everything I ever want. And that's when everyone in the class is like, hey, yo, bro, what? Huh? And sure enough, right, the teacher's like starting to get a little upset as well. And the teacher's like, you know what? Let's pretend you had to contribute to society in some way. Let's pretend. So, I mean, look, it's a grown adult fighting with a little kid. So, I don't know if anyone's really the person in the right here. I don't think the kid saying that, like, everyone is inherently worse than him because his parents have money is in the right. But I also don't think an adult fighting with a kid's in the right either. But anyways, right, so it's a heated match. And Chris is just sitting there very awkwardly, very uncomfortable. And that's when the spoiled kid starts to, he basically loses it. He starts saying, just because you poor, broke individuals with no money, are mad at me and are jealous for what I earned. I earned, bro. Congrats on being the right sperm that went to the right cell. Congrats. I don't know. What are you saying? But anyways, he's like, you guys are all so jealous. I can smell the jealousy from here. Oh, man, it reeks of jealousy because you guys are all jealous and haters. I hate how hatery you guys are. You're all jealous and you suck and because you're poor and broke and lame. And the kid literally runs out of the classroom. And he just, at this point, right, the teacher's like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? And the teacher's like, okay, class, please ignore what just happened. Let's continue on. And basically what happens, the spoiled kid ran out, went to his backpack. They have to keep their backpacks outside. They go out and they grab their books or whatever. And he grabs his, portable phone. He dials up the number for his dad. And within 30 minutes, his dad arrives at the school. And so anyways, Chris is in class, they're finishing up their presentations when the spoiled kid and the spoiled kid's dad barge through the door. And the spoiled kid's dad is looks at the teacher and says, my son says that you were shaming him for us being successful. Is this true? And the teacher said, today was supposed to be career day. Your son went up there and just said, I want to be rich. So I kind of just pressed him and asked him, okay, well, what career path do you want to do to obtain such status and wealth, right? And he said that, he's going to be rich because he deserves it. We're poor because we don't deserve it. And that, you're going to basically pay for everything that he ever wants and that he doesn't need a job. And his dad says, and? You got mad at my son for saying that? That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly true. And the teacher's like, wait, so you believe that, like, the reason why some people are poor and some people are rich is that they're just born as worse off, like they're not as good of a person? And his dad, and the spoiled kid's dad is like, yeah, that's exactly what I think. And he looks down at his son and he says, you know what, son? Good for you. You're taking on like your old dad. Like, you know what? Let's go home. I'm going to take you out for ice cream. The spoiled kid's like, yay, ice cream. And the kid and the father walk off. This is kind of a sad story because, look, at the end of the day, a lot of times views and opinions of kids are really just formed from their environment. And a lot of times parents are like are kind of like the main factor in determining what that environment will be. So this is kind of an unfortunate story, but it is what it is. And yeah, so Chris, like, remember, this happened a long time ago for Chris, and this kid kind of a little bit grew out of it. He was always kind of been spoiled and entitled, even as he got older, but he wasn't as bad as this. For the next spoiled kid story, we're going to call the subscriber Clarence. So anyways, Clarence was at a restaurant, and it was a bit of a fancier restaurant. It wasn't like drive-through McDonald's or something. It was a bit of a fancier sit-down restaurant, and Clarence and his parents sat down next to another table that probably just got there a couple minutes before them. It was a mom, a dad, and a son. This son was probably he was on the younger side. He might have been the 4th or 5th grade or something. But this son, we're just going to call the spoiled kid because, oh my God, he was the spoiled kid, right? So first of all, Clarence was watching, and, Clarence's parents said, hey, no phones, no iPads, no devices or anything at the table. When you're sitting at the table, please pay attention to, like, the other people there, like, it's important to, like, maintain conversations. And I think that's a good thing, personally. I try and uphold that as much as I possibly can. But anyways, right, Clarence was looking over, and there was a kid, the spoiled kid, had his big old iPad, and he was just on it, and he had the iPad on the table. And Clarence saw the spoiled kid's mom be like, so, spoiled kid, how was school today? And the spoiled kid's like, shut up, Mom, I'm watching Minions. And he sits on his iPad. And, the spoiled kid's dad is like, son, it's not polite to talk to your mother like that. He's like, shut up, Dad, I'm on my iPad watching Minions. And at this point, like, Clarence is like, wow, this kid's like a real jerk. Like, bro, look, your parents, first of all, they're the ones who raise you. They put a house over your head. They gave you that iPad. You've done none of this before. Yes, they brought you into this world, so, you're entitled to a little bit. But come on now, have a little bit of respect when everything you have in life is because of them. Don't be like, bro, I'm watching Minions, I'm too busy. Like, get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. That's ridiculous. And sure enough, right, Clarence watches as this kid is like, shut up, Mom, I'm watching Minions. I'm going to be on my iPad. And so sure enough, right, the spoiled kid's parents kind of give up, which, look, if I'm going to be a parent, I'm not giving up. I'm not tolerating disrespect like that. But anyways, right, so sure enough, this kid is on his iPad, and he says he doesn't have the volume down low. He literally has the volume cranked up to the maximum. Yes, this was a restaurant with a lot of people. There was noise. There was ambiance. But within that ambiance, you could hear Minion Rush gameplay. It was the loudest thing in the room. And the thing is, right, maybe the person sitting at the end, like at very far away, couldn't hear like the Minion Rush in the background from this iPad. But since Clarence and his family were sitting right next to them, like, their conversation was being drowned out by Minion sounds. Like, from the movie. He's like, oh my God. And the thing is, right, this spoiled kid, you might be thinking, wow, this kid's disrespecting his parents, and he's on his iPad being super loud. This must be the worst he gets. No, trust me. He gets so much worse. Real quick, comment spoiled if you made it this far into the video. I really would appreciate it just to see who made it this far. Also, if you want to support the channel, literally just continue watching these videos. I keep on seeing comments from people saying, I've watched 5 videos today. I've watched 20 videos this week. I just want to let you know that when I see those comments, I try and heart them as much as I can. And even if I don't, just know I really appreciate it because watching a bunch of videos is what is helping the channel get promoted as much as it is. So I really, really, really do appreciate it. And also, yes, we are on Spotify. It is linked in the description. But also, if you look up Connor Pugs, it'll be the only Connor Pugs podcast, I do believe. And you can watch these videos on the go or whatever, right? And also, don't forget to use code ConnorPugs on GamerSupps for 10% off. It helps me, It helps you. You'll love to see it. And finally, if you want to submit your own stories, these are subscriber submitted stories, go to my Instagram account, Connor Pugs. It's also in the description. Follow me and then DM me your stories. And don't say, oh, I have a story. Do you want to hear it? Just DM me the stories. A lot of times, even if I use the stories, I won't even respond, just in case I change my mind a little bit later. So always be checking in with the videos to see if your story was used. And also, if I do use your story, there's a good chance I alter most of the details just to make sure that it doesn't get back to the person and you get in trouble. And also just keeping it good like that. Anyways, let's get back to it. So sure enough, Clarence is listening over. And the other table with the spoiled kid, they get their food, right? Like, food was given out, like, handed over. And, you know, on this, like, dish or whatever, there was, like, a main course. And then there was, like, vegetables. And the thing is, right, I get it. If you don't like your vegetables, you don't like your vegetables. There's not a lot that I can do about it personally. I think you should eat your vegetables. I think that it's important to eat your greens. However, if you don't, whatever, man. I'm not in charge of you. However, what you should not be doing is taking your broccoli and throwing it across the room to random people. That's not what you should be doing, to say the least, right? So anyways, this, you know, Clarence is sitting there, and he's not even looking at the spoiled kid's table when he feels something hit his face. And he looks down at the table, and there's a piece of broccoli on the frickin' table, bro. There's a piece of broccoli on the table. And sure enough, right, you know, he looks over, and the spoiled kid is picking up the broccoli on his plate and chucking it across the room. Boom, boom, just like throwing it across the place, hitting other people. They're looking over, and the spoiled kid's mom is like, spoiled kid, don't throw your food. Don't, like, this is not a food fight. Like, have some respect. And the spoiled kid's like, shut up, Mom. I'm going to do whatever I want. And at this point, right, you know, Clarence is looking over. He's like, wow, like, this is kind of disrespectful. This is kind of, like, not a great thing. And sure enough, the spoiled kid continues to just take fistfuls of broccoli and peas and just throwing them all around the place. And the thing is, no one at the restaurant who works there noticed this, because I'm pretty sure they come over and ask him to stop. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they think it's such a great thing. They say, oh, sir, thank you so much for chucking your mushed up vegetables in your hand all over the place. Thank you so much. You're so valuable to our customer service. You add to our atmosphere with all the vegetables flying around. Like, no, dude. Like, no one actually wants that. But this is not as bad as the spoiled kid gets. Because the next thing he does is finally, right, he gets bored. He eats, like, a little bit off his plate. And then he leaves the table. And the spoiled kid's dad is like, spoiled kid, get back here, sit down. We're going to have a nice conversation. He's like, no, shut up, Dad. He just kind of just starts walking around. And that's when Clarence watches as the spoiled kid approaches his table. And Clarence is like, oh my God, like, what's going on here? And Clarence had like a big thing of fries because he got steak, and he got steak with fries on the side. And he sees the spoiled kid come over to the table. And Clarence and his parents are like, hello there. Spoiled kid is like, hello. And he literally takes his big greasy palms and grabs a handful of fries and runs away. And Clarence is like, hey, like, what, bro, like, come back. And the thing is, right, he took like 3/4 of the fries. He took most of Clarence's fries. And at this restaurant, the fries were like the greatest fries around. Clarence has been thinking about these fries for weeks. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. The fries are good. So Clarence is upset, and he starts looking over, and he sees the spoiled kid is going table to table, literally taking people's stuff. He's going from table to the next table, to the next table, to the next table, literally just nabbing stuff from people. And people are like, hey, like, what's going on here? And that's when someone gets up and talks to a manager of the restaurant, pointing at the spoiled kid. And Clarence watches as the manager is, like, looking over, the person complaining is pointing at the spoiled kid, and shows the spoiled kid going from table to table, like, grabbing stuff. And that's when the manager walks over to the spoiled kid's parents and says, hey, guys, you got to control your kid. And they're like, hey, like, we've been trying to. He's been so bad. And the manager's like, I mean no disrespect or anything, but if you can't control him, I'm gonna have to ask all of you to leave. And the thing is, the spoiled kid heard this, and the spoiled kid is like, you can't tell me to do anything. And the manager is like, I'm the manager of this restaurant. If you continue to take stuff from people and you don't sit down and eat the dinner like everyone else with your parents, I'm going to have to ask you all to leave. I think it's a pretty fair request. And the spoiled kid gets super angry. He's like, you can't tell me what to do. So the spoiled kid runs away, right? And his parents are like, I'm so sorry, I'll go get him. However, they're not expecting what's about to happen next. And what's about to happen next is that the spoiled kid, bro, the spoiled kid starts running around and like he takes like one of the salt and pepper shakers and chucks it through the window. And the window apparently was like, it was like one of those like glass panel things. It wasn't like a big thick window. It goes right through the glass panel, shatters. And the glass shattering noise is enough to get everyone's attention in the restaurant. So they all turn their heads and they're looking over and they're just like what's going on here? And everyone turns and they look at the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid is literally just standing there. Like he is just standing there watching everyone watch him. And he's next to a big thing of broken glass. And the manager angrily turns to his parents and is like, if you don't control your kid and get him out of here, I'm going to call the police to do that for them. And the parents are like, he's just a kid. Why would you call the police? Shattered glass noise number 2. And they look over and they see the spoiled kid has taken a stool and thrown it through a normal glass window, which is insane, right? And they're like, okay, point proven. So the two parents run over to the spoiled kid and are like, sweetie, we need to go home. And the spoiled kid's like, no, Mom and Dad, I do what I want because I can do anything. This is my world. And he literally just continues. He takes another chair and his dad is like, spoiled kid, if we go back home, we can get ice cream. And spoiled kid's like, of course we're getting ice cream when we go home. When you take me home, I'm going to get ice cream no matter what. But I want to keep doing what I'm doing right now. So at this point, right, Clarence looks over and sees the manager literally going over and like calling the police at this point. He sees the manager being like, nah, bro, this is not happening. Not in my restaurant. And so sure enough, right, he calls the police. And at this point, the spoiled kid and his parents are like, okay, come on, spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid's like, not today. And he takes another chair, throws it through another window. At this point, right, a lot of people are getting up to leave because this is ridiculous. And sure enough, right, the police do arrive and the spoiled kid doesn't see the police and he picks up another chair when he feels a bit of resistance, like there's someone else tugging on the chair. So the spoiled kid thinks it's his dad. He's like, don't try and stop me, Dad. And he turns around and he's looking directly at an officer who is holding onto the chair. And he's like, oh my God. He drops the chair and he runs away, but he runs over to the exit, which is the door. And who do you think is standing in the door? Another officer. And he starts crying. He's like, it wasn't me. It was my parents and that kid. And he points over to Clarence, the subscriber. And Clarence is like, bro, what? You took fries from me and now you're blaming me for causing damages at a restaurant. Anyways, police officers are told by the manager, no, it was this kid. And so anyways, police officers, the manager, the parents, and this kid are all standing around. And they're basically just talking about damages, like how it's going to be settled, how all of that. Basically, the restaurant is 1, banning them from ever coming back, and 2, sending them a bill for, the damages done to the window. And the cops basically say, hey, the manager said that, he's not going to press any charges or have any police action against your son, so he won't be going to juvie or anything like that, or be on watch or something, but, you need to be a better parent. And they're like, I know. And with that, they left. And, basically, most people at this point had left. Clarence and his parents had finished eating. They were paying the check. And Clarence just looked over. And man, bro just saw a massive, he just saw a massive pile of glass, bro. He just saw a massive pile of glass. And the moral of the story is if you're a parent, sometimes you got to be forceful. Not physically, but sometimes you got to put your foot down and not let your kid run you because they'll turn into something like that. Anyways, if you want to support the channel, go ahead and watch another video after
Click on the video
one.
on screen.
Today I got a story time of probably one of the most spoiled kids to ever exist. So let's just hop right into it. Subscribe if you like stories. And let's call today's subscriber, let's call him Todd. So in Todd's neighborhood, Nerf guns were really the big thing, and they had been the big thing for a while, right? The last couple years, all the kids have been collecting Nerf guns, and they go over to each other's houses or whatever. But, this happened to be the last week of school, and on the final day, they had a really big kind of Nerf gun fight, big whatever, right, thing planned, and it was planned in one of the kids' houses. And Todd was the one who had a lot of Nerf guns himself, and, he supplied some of them. And the idea was that everyone would bring some Nerf guns or whatever, and, like, if you wanted to try someone else's, like, whatever, you'd be able to rotate through. And it was basically, like, a big tournament because they had, like, casually played with each other, and they'd had some, like, 1v1s or 2v2s, or even 3v3 at some point, right? But, they'd never had... Sorry, my throat is not feeling so great. And so anyways, right, let's just skip forward to the day of the big Nerf battle royale type thing, kind of like a round robin type event. What I was trying to say earlier before my voice exploded, by the way, was that they've never really had a big tournament where everyone kind of fought against each other to see who really was like the best Nerf guy ever, whatever, right? It wasn't even that deep to most of them. And they basically included every kid in the neighborhood who is kind of close because, they can't be leaving one of the guys out. And there was one kid who lived in the biggest house at the end of the road, and he was known as the spoiled kid. Not because his parents made a lot of money, or I guess not a lot compared to life. I don't know, Elon Musk or, Bill Gates or someone, but a lot compared to, like, everyone else's parents, right? He wasn't known as the spoiled kid because he had a lot of money. I mean, I don't really think that's necessarily fair. I think it's how you act and how you use that money, if you use it for, like, I don't know if it goes to your head or not, And the spoiled kid was definitely one of the kids where the money most definitely went to his head because he was always acting super entitled. He kind of acted like he had no perspective, which he really didn't, but he was kind of a jerk about it. But they didn't feel like they could really leave him out. And the parents were like, oh, you should invite so-and-so over or whatever. And they're like, fine, Mom. So sure enough, right, let's just skip ahead to the day. And it's the day of the big Nerf battle, and one of the kids, kind of irrelevant, sorry kid, one of the kids, it was at his house, and it was just a neighborhood kid, and everyone came over, and Todd, he got his backpack, he threw some of his Nerf guns in there. Todd had like 2 or 3 Nerf guns, and, he couldn't really get a lot. He didn't really get a new one for the last year because his parents were kind of like, they're having a tough moment, right, financially. So he really kind of had to conserve the Nerf guns that he had, but he wanted to bring over all the ones so that his friends could try out some of them if they didn't have them themselves. So sure enough, everyone gets there, and they all had their Nerf guns. The only thing that they weren't sharing were the Nerf bullets, which if you've ever played with the Nerf guns before, you know that those things, like, if someone brings them, how are you going to know that, like, those bullets are yours or whatever? And they always get lost in the house. So the kid who was hosting everyone said he'd supply the bullets, and his mom brought a big thing of, like, the foam Nerf bullets, like, bought it from, like, Target, like, recently. So they all supply, like, loaded up or whatever. There were some Nerf guns that needed specialized bullets, but, like, you remembered those if those were yours, like they were very different and you could pick them up. And anyways, right, the spoiled kid got there and he literally, like, his mom dropped him off with a big crate, and he came into the house with a massive crate full of all the newest Nerf guns ever, all the newest contraptions, all the newest, like, Nerf gear, whatever, and everyone's like, whoa! So everyone, of course, goes over and, like, tries to see whatever, look at all the new Nerf guns, try them out, and within like 30 minutes, like, the guy who's hosting it, which is at the house, says, all right, guys, this, like, we should really start the tournament. So they decide to start the tournament. They say, all right, so this is a single shot elimination. If you are hit once, like, please, this is the honor system. It's not that deep. We'll play multiple rounds, but the first round in, we're going to play, like, if you're hit, please just, like, admit it, and, you're out if you're hit. So anyways, people disperse, they grab their Nerf guns, they fill it with Nerf bullets, and they start playing around, and sure enough, right, Todd snipes someone pretty perfectly, and they get hit, so, sure enough, like, they go down. The person, like, in the neighborhood, the random NPC in this story, right, he admits he got hit because, he got hit, and he's like, he also realizes it's a Nerf battle, and it's not that deep. However, right, a little while later, it eventually comes to a point where the kid who's hosting, right, shoots, the spoiled kid with a Nerf gun, and he gets him, right? The Nerf bullet kind of hits the kid in the leg, and the kid, and it's not like the back of the leg, so maybe the spoiled kid didn't realize it was the front of the leg. And also the spoiled kid literally looked down when the thing hit him, looked at the bullet, and watched it roll on the ground after it hit him in the leg. What I'm trying to make clear here is that the spoiled kid saw that he got hit. Because shortly after, right, the guy, let's just call him Ben. We're bringing back that meme. I saw some of you guys feeling sad that meme was gone. Basically, the meme is, for you guys who don't know, whenever there's someone who I just need to give a name to, I always say Ben. So anyways, right, Ben, who is the guy who's hosting, is like, hey, dude, I got you. And the spoiled kid's like, no, you definitely didn't. And there was another kid who was kind of hiding, being like, time out, like, yeah, I definitely saw you got hit. And the spoiled kid's like, no, Ben just paid you off. And at this point, right, Ben's like, all right, guys. And he kind of like said, all right, we're time out. And everyone comes out, they're hiding or whatever. And Ben's like, dude, like, it's so, like, I saw that you got hit, right? And even over here, this guy points to Ben number 2. Okay, I'm not actually going to call him that, but he's like, this guy saw you got hit. Everybody here saw you got hit, bro. Like, you just got to, like, accept it. We're playing more rounds, dude. It's not even a big deal. And the spoiled kid is like, well, I'm not upset because I got hit. I'm upset because I didn't get hit, and you're cheating. And at this point, right, Todd, the person who sent in the story, which, by the way, you can send in stories to my Instagram or just follow it if you want to, right? It's in the description. Also, I'll be making an email soon. I've just been busy. I apologize for that. But anyways, right, at this point, Todd is realizing that there's a bit of tension growing in the room. And you could see that the spoiled kid was getting more and more kind of like upset. He was getting more and more angry. Instead of at this point kind of just letting it go and being like, well, we're playing more rounds of Nerf battles. Like, it really doesn't matter. Instead, the spoiled kid was like, I'm going to die on this hill if it's the last thing I do. Kind of that type of attitude. So sure enough, right, the Ben, the guy who's hosting it, wasn't really feeling like letting this kid get away with it, because he, like, Ben and basically everyone else there kind of had the impression that kid was like super spoiled and always got what he wanted, and Ben wasn't about to give him what he wanted once again. He just didn't really feel like that's what he wanted to do. Real quick, comment spoiled down below. If you want a heart on your comment, that will be the secret word of the day. And also, if you want to support the channel, binge watch videos. Like after this one, go watch like 3 or 4 more. Please let me know if you're doing this in the comment section down below so I can heart your comment and say thank you, because genuinely that has supported me and the channel so much, and I really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you. Anyways, back to the story. It's about to get crazy. And then, yeah, sure enough, the spoiled kid starts getting angrier and angrier, and Ben isn't backing down, and Todd is like, all right, this is getting a little heated in here. And the spoiled kid is like, you're cheating, and then points the kid next to Ben, you're cheating, and then turns around and points at Todd, I almost call him Tom. He's like, you're cheating too, and Todd's just like, bro, what? I just got down here, bro, what are you talking about? He's like, you're all complacent to cheating, which makes you the biggest cheaters of them all. I'm not gonna play with you guys anymore and let you use my cool stuff. And with that, the spoiled kid gets so angry, and remember, he's holding Todd's Nerf gun, which Todd only has 3 of, and his parents aren't in a point where they could buy another one. And the spoiled kid is like, screw you guys, kind of does like a Cartman type thing, but I don't know if he actually says that specifically, but he's like, you guys suck. And then he takes Todd's Nerf gun, lifts it above his head, and throws it on the ground as hard as possible. And it is a 2 or 3 year old Nerf gun, and those things are plastic, and with enough force, yes, you will break it. And sure enough, the Nerf gun is just thrown on the ground. It hits the ground. The middle cartridge type thing, the plastic that was holding it in, breaks, and the cartridge flies out. The handle is cracked, and the shaft barrel thing is splintered, and the Nerf gun is basically rendered completely useless. And Todd is just dude, that's 33% of my Nerf guns, bro, and I can't get another one. And the spoiled kid looks at Todd because he realizes that was Todd's Nerf gun. He's like, just have your dad buy another one. And that was the words that the spoiled kid walked out of the door with. And yes, he left his big crate with all the Nerf guns in it. He was going to come by later to pick it up. He knew that they didn't dare steal from him or anything like that. Yeah, so the spoiled kid walked out, and everyone's kind of looking around, and people kind of know, like they're all at a point where they can't be spending a crazy amount of money. And well, they're all kids. They're all like 12 or 13 at this point, or at least that's what the subscriber said he was. So I'm assuming he's not playing Nerf guns with, I don't know, 30-year-old men who work at a bike store down the road, but who knows, man. Let's just make the assumption that they're all like 12 or 13. And when you're 12 or 13, dude, you're broke. $10 is a massive deal. Like $10 and like, oh my God, like Bill Gates, like be prepared, I'm coming for the richest man in the world spot type, you know how it is, right? So they all, like, I mean, they're all in a point where they can't really buy that much, but they also kind of know of like Todd's parents' situation. They kind of had an idea. They didn't know how bad it was specifically, but they knew that, that Nerf gun that, the kid broke, the spoiled kid broke, wasn't going to be easily like replaced or anything like that. So they're all like, bro, we're so sorry. Like, you can always use one of ours. Like, and Todd, it was a very nice offer and he thanked them for it. But there's a difference between being able to borrow your friend's Nerf guns, which they already did, and not having one of your own broken. Like, there's a big difference right there. So the mood of the whole Nerf gun event was kind of ruined. So they kind of like closed. I think they had one more round, but they were planning on having like 8 rounds and doing a real round robin tournament type thing. But they could just tell by the end of the second round that they just didn't have any energy left, as that totally killed the vibe. And Todd, left, and they all kind of left Ben's house. And when Todd went back home, he kind of explained to his mom, like, hey, Mom, like, this is what happened today. And she's like, oh, sweetie, like, I'm so sorry that happened. You do know that I can't buy you another one right now. And Todd's like, yeah, I 100% understand. Like, that's I didn't expect you to, and that's kind of why it's making me a little sad. And Todd's mom's like, well, I'm going to be really busy, but I know you have tomorrow off, and, the spoiled kid, it says his actual name, but spoiled kid, right? The spoiled kid doesn't live that far away. Maybe you can walk down, talk to, his mom, and maybe she'd be able to repay you for it. I know it's a little awkward, and maybe I would have done it myself, but I'm just really busy, and maybe she'd also have a bit more, I don't know, sympathy. God, I almost call it like the music thing. Sympathy for someone if they're coming over and they're like 12, and give her the puppy. Like, you know what, Todd? Give her the puppy dog eyes. Like, she'll give you like a nice little tip on that too. So Todd's like, all right, like whatever. Next day rolls around. Todd walks down the street. He's like, this is going to be a little bit awkward, but I got to do what I got to do. So Todd, like, walks over, and he knows exactly where the spoiled kid lives, even though he's never been over to the spoiled kid's house, as he doesn't really like him that much, so they never really had sleepovers or anything. It is very clear which house is his. It is the big, massive house at the end of the street. So he opens up their kind of, like, fence or whatever, and he walks in, and the plants on both sides are beautiful, and there's someone mowing the lawn right now. The lawn is pristine. It's been a hot summer, or it is a hot summer since I guess it just started as school just ended, and everyone's lawn was kind of feeling it, but the spoiled kid definitely had probably the most expensive water bill, probably more expensive than half the houses on the street. They were keeping things looking luscious and wonderful, and Todd was like, okay, well, let's just get this over with. So he goes up to the doorbell, and he rings it, and he's like, all right, this is going to be super awkward if the spoiled kid shows up, but I'll have to deal with it. But thankfully, right, the spoiled kid's mom, or who Todd presumes is the spoiled kid's mom, maybe it's his nanny, but he finds out pretty quickly that it's not his nanny, shows up at the door. She's like, oh, Todd, like, how's it going? I heard that, I remember that spoiled kid, says his actual name, of course, but I remember spoiled kid was heading over to Ben's house to go play with his Nerf guns. I think he needs to pick them up at some point, but he said he wasn't really in a rush. And Todd's like, yeah, like, it was a lot of fun to play with him while we did. There's just one little detail I gotta talk about. And then Todd goes on to explain that the spoiled kid disagreed, quote unquote, with one of the rulings and got really upset and ended up breaking, Todd's Nerf gun. And Todd said that he was kind of in a position, or his family was in a position, where that Nerf gun really could not be replaced by them. And by the end of Todd's explanation, the spoiled kid's mom is like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's got a little bit of a temper. gives a little laugh, is like, oh, my little spoiled kid, like, he's a hothead, just like his dad, ha ha ha. Then she just gives this little nervous look, and Todd feels extra uncomfortable. He's like, all right, now, I'm not your family therapy, bro. I just want my $40, or however much. I just want my money for my Nerf gun, bro. I don't want to hear this. And so sure enough, right, Todd's mom was, oh, just stay right here. Just stay right here. And she goes into the house, and Todd's kind of looking around, and, he's looking at the, the nice kind of like flowers and bushes around. And eventually she comes back, and she opens up her wallet, which is probably some like Hermes, Gucci, X, I don't know, Supreme Brick type wallet. And she opens it up, and she pulls out two 20s, which, Todd wasn't even really expecting, like, he's expecting like $10, if that. But, oh, $40? Like, he could probably buy a nice Nerf gun with that. Maybe a few extra Nerf bullets. Actually, I don't know how much Nerf guns go for these days. I haven't played with one in a while. Low-key, if my friends wanted to, I would 100% be down. But that's beyond the point. So he takes the money. He's like, oh, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. I really do. And, Todd is just like, all right, well, it was nice seeing you. And the spoiled kid's mom's like, wait, stay right here for one more second. And Todd's like, no, okay. And yeah, so sure enough, the spoiled kid's mom is like, spoiled kid, says his actual name, but says first name, last name, get down here right now. And you can hear like a little scream like, Mom, I'm playing Xbox. Well, I can barely do these voices with the condition my throat's in right now. Oh, my God. But eventually, spoiled kid's mom's like, I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi if you don't get down here right now. And he's like, fine. And then he eventually comes down, and his hair's all matted, and he's like, whatever, he's in his sweats. It's a typical Sunday morning. You know how it is, right? It's summertime. It could be a Tuesday in the afternoon for all we know, right? Same situation. But sure enough, right, the spoiled kid's mom is like, I was just told that you broke, like, your friend Todd's, like, Nerf gun. And he's like, friend. She's like, stop it. And you know what? You're going to be punished. And he's like, whatever, bring it on. And the spoiled kid's mom is like, for the next 15 minutes, you cannot play on the Xbox. And in Todd's mind, he was like, oh, so this is like a gag. Like this is kind of like a joke, a prank. This is like a gag punishment to make me laugh and to like throw him off. And then he gets the real punishment. And then Todd realizes, wait, no, that's the actual punishment. And he kind of expected the spoiled kid to, like, pretend to be upset and just, like, deal with it when he really realizes that he got off with a great, super easy punishment. But the spoiled kid is like, no, Mom, why? I need the Xbox. I need a nap. And the spoiled kid's mom is like, well, that's what you get for breaking stuff. You can't be breaking other people's things. It's not a good thing to do. And, the spoiled kid's like, Mom, no, I was in the middle of a game. And then the spoiled kid legitimately starts breaking into tears. And his mom was like, oh, honey, don't start crying. And Todd is just standing there like, this is both the most pathetic and awkward experience. Like, this is the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. And this is also the most awkward experience I've ever had to live through. Are you serious, man? Like, can you have a little bit of dignity in front of me? He didn't say that out loud, but that's what he was thinking. And sure enough, right, the spoiled kid is just like, oh, Mom, but I was in the middle of a Call of Duty game. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.